Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Cat Chat Live webinar. My name is Nancy Stevens. I manage parent and family communications here at the University of Kentucky, and I'm so glad that you've joined us here today. Today's topic is an exciting one with August finally here. We're going to be talking about K-Week and getting involved on campus. I know that so many of our incoming students are looking forward to meeting people, getting connected on campus. And so in just a few moments, you're going to get to meet some of my colleagues from the Office of Student Organizations and Activities who are going to walk you through ways your student can start their involvement journey here at UK. And then they'll get into a little bit more detail about K-Week, our fall welcome week for incoming students here. But first, as always, I'd like to do a little bit of housekeeping, particularly for those of you who haven't joined us for a Cat Chat Live webinar already in this series. So my colleagues are going to go through all of their slides about K-Week and getting involved on campus, and then we'll take time for your questions. So be thinking of those questions, review the Q&A in Zoom to see what questions others have asked. There's a chance for you to upvote even those questions that you're also wanting to know more about. We'll go through all of those. My colleague Kate is behind the scenes putting relevant links in the chat, any dates and contact information you need to know. So I really appreciate her doing that again. If you're not able to join us for the entire webinar, we will be recording it and it will be posted in the Cat Chat family community in the next few days. If you think about other UK questions that you might have beyond talking about K-Week or getting involved on campus, send an email to parents@uky.edu. And Kate and Nikki and the team in the Office of Family and Civic Organization, now I'm forgetting all my office names, Family and Civic Engagement, can get you the information that you need. And then we always like to have your feedback. So after today's webinar, you're going to see a link to a survey, and we would really appreciate you taking a moment or two to share your thoughts on today's webinar and any questions you may still have that may inform what Cat Chat Lives we may schedule looking ahead into the fall semester. So our series is going to continue after today. On Wednesday, our Cat Chat Live topic is Financing UK, Financing Life. And so I'll be joined by colleagues from the Office of Student Financial Aid and Scholarships, from Student Account Services, and from the Financial Wellness Center. So you can register for that in the Cat Chat family community if you're planning on joining us live. If you're not planning on joining live, that's no problem. You don't need to register. You can just look for that link in the Cat Chat family community after the recording. Now, looking ahead into next week, we'll be talking a little bit more about safety and wellness. I'll be joined by colleagues from University Health Service, from Student Wellbeing, and from UK Police. And again, more information on all of those topics coming in the Cat Chat family community. You can be looking for those there. The Cat Chat family community is your one-stop shop for all UK news and information for parents and families. So hopefully you're finding that to be a really good resource for you. Anytime you have questions about UK, I would encourage you to go look in the Cat Chat family community. You'll likely find the answer to your question right there. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn things over to my colleagues in student organizations and activities. And appreciate them making time. I know they're very busy putting the finishing touches on K-Week and things. And so know that they're joining us today and kind of putting a pause in that planning process. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm excited to see all the good information you have to share.
Hey, yeah, we are troubleshooting a little bit real quick. If you can give us just a second, I'll go ahead and do some introductions while Justice is getting that pulled up, though. My name is Mary Clark. I'm the Assistant Director for WRFL in the Office of Student Organizations and Activities. And so I advise WRFL, but I also support K-Week with marketing and promotion specifically. And this is Justice here. I'll let her introduce herself in a second.
Hi, I'm Justice. I'm a Senior Specialist for Data and Operations with the Office of Student Organizations and Activities. I'm supporting our K-teams this year for K-Week. Excited to talk to you all about involvement and some of the fun things that we've got coming up with our K-Week.
So just want to confirm, can everybody see the slides now? Nancy, Kate, does it look good on your end?
Yep, I can see it. Y'all have some good looking slides.
Thank you so much. I was at the different Zoom formats. The webinar one it's rare that we use this one. So we're excited and thank you all for your patience. Starting off, we want to give an overview of what involvement is, what it means for students at the University of Kentucky. So the way we think about involvement is that it really is a chance for students to enhance their skills, start to build relationships, and then, of course, gain experiences while they're at the University of Kentucky. So we think a lot about student organizations are a great way to get involved, or going to events like the events that we'll talk about with K-Week. But it can also be things like participating in campus rec activities, whether that is doing different classes, it could be doing undergraduate research, being an officer of an organization. Really, involvement is kind of what you make it. Some reasons why we say to get involved or get widely involved, keeping with UK brand. Again, there's a lot of skills that you can get. When you think about organization membership, you start connecting with other students, you gain those communication skills, build relationships with students, advisors, faculty, and staff, and also the unique experiences that come with involvement. At the University of Kentucky, we have over 7,000 events that are published on our BB Involved platform, which is our involvement platform that we'll talk about a little bit later. And last year, we had 710 registered student organizations. So lots of opportunities to connect with things that may interest you or things that you've already been interested in and connected with in your high school experience. Like I said, we have over 700 student organizations. We're going to go through 4 specific organizations that the Office of Student Organizations and Activities directly advises. Starting with our Student Activities Board, this is the largest programming board on campus. This picture is from one of their traditional events, Ping Pong Drop, where they drop ping pongs from the top of Patterson Tower. And then each one is marked, or they have a few special ones that are marked with little prize symbols. But our Student Activities Board also participates in K-Week. They do events like Campus Ruckus and also support Catapalooza that Mary will talk about later. But this is an organization that if you are looking for events, they probably have something going on every single week. So definitely a great organization to check out. Next is our Student Government Association. So this is the voice of the student body on campus. So the Student Government Association advocates for the student experience. They also do events. This is one of the events that they do with actually our Student Activities Board called Wildcat Market. But if you are interested in advocacy or telling the story of what it means to be a student at UK, the Student Government Association is a great organization to check out. Next, we have WRFL, which is our radio station on campus. They do provide programming 365 days a year, every day at all hours. Mary is actually one of the advisors for WRFL. This is a great organization, not only if you're interested in music and getting involved with the local Lexington music scene, but also just kind of arts in general. They do a tri-annual zine that they have submissions for, whether that's poetry or music reviews, movie reviews. And actually, you can go into the station. It's right outside of our office and see the DJ that is on air at any time. Next, we have Dance Blue. This is another one of our organizations that they fundraise year-long, and it all culminates into a 24-hour dance marathon. All of the proceeds for Dance Blue go to fund the Dance Blue Clinic that supports children's oncology research. So this is a picture from last year's marathon with the money that they raised. A great program to get involved with, and they do events throughout the year as well, whether that is things like the marathon that they do, the 5K. I think last year they did a bubble run one, which was fun. So another organization to check out. All these organizations are also going to be at our K-Week events, so you'll be able to see them there. I'm quickly going to go through a few resources that we have related to involvement. First is BB Involved. This is our online hub for involvement. Anyone can go to this website. If you log in, students with your Link Blue, it's Link Blue authenticated, you'll be able to see all of our currently registered student organizations, as well as events that are already published on the platform. Here, this is kind of showing you where you'll be able to toggle in between things to sort for events. So you can see you can just search by key terms like art or activities or things like that. But you can also sort by different categories, different branches. So if you want to see like what club sports events that are coming up, that's an option too. And then next, you can also sort this similarly with our organizations. We have over 700 organizations, so if you want to be a little more specific on the types of orgs you want to look for, we have different categories, everything from academic organizations, service-based, club sports, social, everything from Taylor Swift fan club to scroll watching. You can even search key terms like that to see if there's organizations that are of interest to you. And then we also have a service tab on BB Involved. So if you're interested in service opportunities, you can click on this tab to see what current opportunities are available and even register to participate. Another resource I wanted to mention is our involvement advising. So we have about 5 or 6 involvement advisors who are student leaders on campus that are pros at involvement. And you can actually request a meeting with one of these students, and they'll actually work with you to think about what your involvement goals are and to start getting connected to organizations that you may be interested in or finding events that would be a good fit for the things that you want to do. You can request an appointment on BB Involved if you scan this QR code. If you go on BB Involved, you can also type in involvement advising in the search bar and it'll pull up this form. But this is a really easy form to fill out if you're interested in just talking to somebody about what your involvement journey may look like. The questionnaire, it'll ask you a few things like, what are you interested in? What were you previously involved with in high school? And what are your goals? And even things like how much time do you have to dedicate to involvement? Things like that. I'd highly recommend if you want to start that conversation to go ahead and submit something like this. We also have our involvement advisors attend different events throughout the year. We'll talk about Bowman's bucket list a little bit later, but we know that sometimes thinking about 7,000 events is kind of a lot to figure out where you may want to jump in with involvement at. So our involvement advisors have involvement advisor picks where they'll actually go and attend an event. So that way, if you want to go with an involvement advisor, that is an opportunity that we offer. And some different ways to stay connected with us. We have our Center for Student Involvement, which is actually where Mary and I are right now. But this is kind of our physical hub for involvement at the University of Kentucky. So we have our involvement advisor office up here, and we have a few of our student organizations that we mentioned, as well as our rotating organizations for the year. This is in the Gatton Student Center on the 2nd floor. And some other opportunities that we offer, I mentioned a little bit, we have club sports that we support. We also provide leadership development and different trainings throughout the semester, whether that's in the form of workshops or Clifton Strengths training. Our major campus programming calendar, we offer game watch parties, trivia Tuesdays, bingo nights. We have a whole cinema series and a lot of other events, whether that's like Halloween in the center, Valentine's Day in the center, different programming opportunities throughout the year. And this is a picture of our calendar for our programs coming up in fall 2025. So Mary's going to go over K-Week, but just to point out some other things that we'll have coming up, you can see we have movies every month. We also have Labor Day coming up, different game watches. You'll see in the blue in October, that's our homecoming week that we support. So lots of opportunities to get involved with our office and also just to check out different things that are happening, especially in the Student Center.
Right. So, getting into the K-Week specifically, that starts right after move-in, so August 20th through 24th. And the purpose of K-Week, it's really the second step in the orientation process. So the students have moved in here. Now it's time for them to really start feeling at home on campus, learning how to navigate, meeting new people. So it's just a transition period in between move-in and classes starting. So they get to meet the faculty and staff in their academic programs through college meetings, start making new friends with the K crew and just in their dorms, as well as starting to learn about all those different student organizations that exist, networking with them, the different resources on campus, and really get immersed in the traditions on campus as well. And you don't have to just take our word for it. This comes directly from student feedback from surveys. So 83% of students agreed that K-Week helped them make those new friends. 95% of students helped learn how to get involved at UK through K-Week. And we really do care about that feel at home piece. 93% of students said they did feel more at home by attending K-Week. And again, just community and campus resources. Those are really great numbers that we love to see, and we really intentionally program around those goals. So here's just an overview of the schedule. This is also on our website, kweek.uky.edu. We're going to talk about these a little bit more in detail through each slide, but just to give you an idea of the flow of it, again, move-in happens all the way up through that Wednesday. They will kick things off with their floor meetings in their residence halls, and from there they will head to Wildcat Welcome Festival to start the week. So nothing with move-in or those RA meetings conflicts with K-Week. It serves as like the launching pad for K-Week. So starting on Wednesday, again, Wildcat Welcome. This is a really cool event that happens in Alumni Commons that is a great tradition where the students get to walk through the gates of Alumni Commons. And that's important because when they graduate, they get to walk back through those gates to kind of wrap up that journey. So this is where they'll walk through the gates. They'll get their official K-Week t-shirts. They get to meet their K teams for the first time and start networking with them. And there will be all sorts of snacks and energizers happening in that space that night. Heading into Thursday, we've got some college meetings during the daytime. So all of the different academic programs host meetings where students can get more familiar with how the program works, what to expect with classes. A lot of them do resource fairs as well. So those are all from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. during the day based on what academic program that they're in. And then that evening is Campus Ruckus. This is hosted by the Student Activities Board, and there are going to be over 180 student organizations present at Campus Ruckus. So that's a good chunk of that 700 that we have on campus that students can start networking with, learning a little bit about them. Each organization will have their own activity at their table or a way to get engaged. And the night wraps up with a drone show, which is always really fun to see. Heading into Friday, this is a great day for students to get connected with the different departments and resources. So a lot of areas like transformative learning or the counseling center and just different, the career center, for example, they host their own events in different spaces across campus from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then that day wraps up with Big Blue U, which I think seems to be everybody's favorite every year. I know that our K board are all really excited for Big Blue U this year, but that's where students get to really learn about the traditions involved with athletics and like, going to football games and start getting prepped for that first football game. So this is at Kroger Field at 7:00 p.m. that evening. The president of the university will be there, as well as some other administrators and the coaches. And they'll learn all the different UK chants. There's a Coca-Cola toast. And one of my favorite things is always seeing how the class picture turns out. So you may have seen at the picture in the shape of the Kentucky. That's where that gets to happen. Saturday, we have registered student organization welcome events throughout the day. So some different orgs on campus will be hosting events all around campus. So students can continue to get to know a little bit more about them and the programming that they do. And Saturday culminates in Catapalooza, which is right here in the Student Center, and that is hosted by all the different organizations and offices within the Student Center. So there's like an activity in every different space, which is really fun. You can kind of hop around and engage in a bunch of different things. There's going to be a mentalist, there's going to be performances from local Lexington bands, free food, trivia, bingo, all sorts of stuff. So it's really a great way for students to get to know their student center and what all is available for them in this space. The registered student org events will continue on to the next day on Sunday. And Sunday night, students will have the chance to wind down before classes start. So this is the most chill event, appropriately named for K-Week. It's Chill and Grill. And we just wanted to give students another space to unwind, continue connecting with the new friends that they've made through their K crews and in their dorms already. And we will be showing, I made sure to write down the name of the movie so I wouldn't forget, Thunderbolts, the new Avengers movie. So we'll be showing that evening. So we do group students into K teams. We want to make it easy for them to have a peer network to attend these events with. So K teams are assigned based on residence hall. So any new undergraduate students and new transfer students coming in who are going to be living in the residence halls will get automatically assigned their K teams. And then commuters will also have an option to join K teams, and instructions will be sent out about that to them as well. That is an opt-in thing. We'll have a space where they can come meet us on campus if they would like to be grouped into that peer network. Communication about those assignments will be going out not this Friday, but next Friday. So keep an eye on emails for that. And then students will also receive a link to join a group me with their K teams. But really the cool thing about this is they get some structure to have people to attend these events with, so they don't have to try to find them on their own. They don't have to walk alone. And yeah, it's just really supportive, especially of those first 3 events, and making sure students know where they're going. We have some physical resources available during K-Week. So our student organizations and activities staff will be tabling in the student center by the social staircase. You may have seen it when you were here for orientation, but there are some tables up on that 2nd floor. So we'll be up there. If anybody has questions, they're welcome to come talk to us in person during normal business hours during K-Week. They can also pop down to our office on the 1st floor of the student center during normal business hours, and we'd be happy to answer any questions down there as well. And the K teams are really sort of the front line of support during K-Week. Plenty of digital resources available too. The UK guides for K-Week has been published, so you can look at that now. It's go.uky.edu/K-Week app. I will say right now, it's only got some events on it. We've got all the college meetings on it, and we've got all the department events on it. The student organization events will be posted in a couple weeks here, just as we wrap up some processes with that. But if you want to go ahead and start looking through some of those events that are going to be offered, especially with the college meetings and the department Pick Your Path, those are up now. There are a few other really helpful tabs in there. We've got pre-K-Week fun. So if your student is moving in a little bit earlier and wants to find some ways to start connecting before K-Week, there's a tab on there that has some options available for that. We've got post K-Week fun on there too. As well as just some basic questions about parking and what are dining options during that week. Lots of good information in there. There is a new safety app on campus called Safe Zone that all the students should download before they get here. That can come in handy too if they want some extra support in navigating campus and feeling that they've got those connections on hand already. Justice talked about BB Involved earlier, so looking at beyond K-Week, again, pre and post, all sorts of stuff is getting posted on BB Involved already. I love seeing everything start to trickle in as the orgs are starting to get those submitted. On BB Involved, you can also download your event pass. That's how we take attendance at K-Week, as well as many events throughout the year. It's a little QR code that stays in your phone's wallet. So if you have an iPhone, your Apple Wallet, and that's how we take attendance. It's just scanning that. Again, they'll want to get added into their K Teams GroupMe, and we post on Instagram a fair amount, and we'll be ramping up our post during K-Week for sure. So Instagram's a great place to direct your students if they want to follow along for more information as well. So as Justice mentioned earlier, involvement is not just K-Week, it goes way beyond. So we have something called Bowman's Bucket List on BB Involved, which is a curated list of free events for students to attend on campus. And if students attend 38 events, if they scratch 38 by the time they graduate, they will get a certificate saying that they completed Bowman's Bucket List. But involvement really is so important for feeling at home on campus. So it's a great place to look for those curated events. I think the ones to immediately mention is Labor Day weekend. We do something called Labor Stay, and that is over the 4 days of Labor Day weekend. There's lots of programming offered across campus as well. And so a lot of those events will be on Bowman's Bucket List and also eligible for UK Invest if your student signs up for that. You can scan this QR code if you'd like to go ahead and learn more about Bowman's Bucket List, but students can check that out on BB Involved at any time and look at that path. And of course, to stay up to date with our office holistically, I would recommend after K-Week is over, tossing that follow over to the UK Get Involved Instagram. So this is the Instagram for the Student Organizations and Activities Office. And that's where you'll see a lot of those large scale programs and the trivias and bingos and movies continue to get posted throughout the year, as well as information about our involvement fairs, involvement advising, and all sorts of other things. So our contact information, if you want to continue to follow up with us about K-Week and or involvement, to get a hold of the involvement advisors, you can reach out to get involved at uky.edu. Our office is studentorgs@uky.edu, and here's our phone number. You can also find us downstairs in the Student Center and pop in. And then for K-Week specific questions, please direct those to k-week@uky.edu, and we will respond as soon as we can. So that is all of the basic information we have to share about K-Week today, and we're excited to answer some questions.
All right, questions have started coming in. I will need to follow up and ask you all for your slides. Folks are wanting to study on those a little bit more, so we can put those with the recording link in the Cat Chat family community. But let's start taking questions. And folks, as you have more, go ahead and use that Q&A, and we'll be taking them live. So Pam's asking about K-Week activities for transfer students and how they'll find out about those. And she also asked about the class photo. And whether transfer students participate in that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of our K-Week events are open to new transfer students, and we highly encourage them to attend. They will be receiving some communications from UK leading up to K-Week that has some information, but they can also check out the UK Guides app that I mentioned earlier, as well as the K-Week website. But we do highly encourage transfer students to come to all of our events. They are certainly welcome, and they can be part of the class photo as well. For the class photo, you will want to come pick up your UK K-Week t-shirt. There we go. So many Ks. There's always so many Ks. The K-Week t-shirt. So if you can't make it to Wildcat Welcome, which is where we're distributing most of those, we will have those K-Week t-shirts also available at our info tables in the Student Center. And whatever's left over, we'll bring to Big Blue U if people need to pick those up there too. So wear the K-Week t-shirt for the class photo. And yes, absolutely, transfer students are welcome.
Yeah, we call it a class photo, and I've got it even here behind me, but I think it really is like this is the class that entered in the fall of 2025 and less about a graduation year, because we know students are on many different academic paths. So yeah, I agree. I think transfer students should take good advantage of all of the fun things you all have planned during K-Week. All right, Jean is asking, do students get a K-Week activity information in a welcome packet?
There is probably going to be some information in dorms about K-Week, but the most comprehensive information about K-Week can be found on that UK Guides app. You can also view that in a web version too if you don't want to download the app. So that link will take you to a web version, or you can download the app. But that is where all the events are going to be listed. So we have an overview on our website, but the app is really cool because it breaks down event by event. You can filter through tracks like free stuff, free food, college meetings, key events, and then students can build out their schedules in that app and have that saved. So if they want to pre-select some events they're interested in, they'll move them over into their own My Schedule tab, and they can keep up with those that way. But there will not be a comprehensive packet that lists every single event printed. So I would utilize the UK Guides.
Yeah, in fact, as you all were talking, I promise I was paying attention, but I also opened UK Guides and went to Find Guides at the bottom of the screen, and K-Week pops right up, and I'm downloading it and ready to support any students and find all that information there. All right. Next question is, will students be on K-teams with their roommates? I think particularly looking at our residence halls, knowing that's a little different for some of our off-campus students.
Yeah, there is probably a high probability that they will be on the same K team. It kind of depends on once we get our incoming list of where all of our incoming students that are living in residence halls are, of how they're divided out, but there's a pretty good chance that they will be on the same K team as their roommate.
All right. And Monica wants to know, is there a specific time during K-Week where students should plan to pick up their iPads? I know iPad registration is opening tomorrow, and students have information in their emails about that. I also know, having worked iPad pickup last year, that if all of our students came at a specific time, they would be in really long lines. So Can you share a little bit of information of what you know about iPad pickup? And then hopefully Kate can drop that iPad information in the chat as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have the information about that also in our UK Guides app too. So the iPad pickup overlaps with K Week a little bit, but it also starts before K Week. So that is going to be the Tuesday through Thursday of that week. So the 19th through the 21st during normal business hours, I believe. So if students go on Tuesday or Wednesday, that's not conflicting with any K Week events. The only thing I would recommend watching out for is on that Thursday, making sure that your student looks ahead of time to see when their college meeting is going to be. So that way they can plan around their college meetings if those are going to be earlier in the morning. But otherwise, that's the only conflict with the scheduled iPad pickup times in K Week that I'm aware of.
Yeah, it's a multiple day affair, both to help students get through without having to wait in long lines and to also accommodate a variety of different schedules. All right, so Terry says we have a small vehicle. We'll be making an extra trip to campus to help our son get settled in. Since Saturday is part of K Week, would we be intruding? Should we wait until the following weekend? What advice do you have for Terry on that?
I think that certainly I would encourage your student to attend Catapalooza. So I would try to avoid being super busy around that time. Otherwise, I would have your student look at the UK Guides app and see what student orgs are hosting events on Saturday. And if there is an org that's hosting an event that your student's interested in, to try to accommodate for that. But otherwise, that would be my advice. Yeah, just make sure that your student's not going to miss out on something that they're really looking forward to.
That's good advice. So speaking of advice, what would you tell families whose students may be more hesitant to want to put themselves out there and go to some of these events? I know it can be so awkward if it can feel overwhelming. I know that's why the K teams exist and why the K crew student leaders lead those K teams to help kind of take away some of that awkwardness and the, I don't want to go by myself, but what advice do you have for families to really encourage your students to take advantage, not only of K Week, but of all of the involvement opportunities throughout the year?
Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and start and then I can hand it over to Justice to talk about K teams a little bit more. We do talk about these large scale programs as sort of like the big highlight of K Week, but if that's something that seems really overwhelming for students, they can choose how they engage with those events. So if it's just coming to get the free food and walking through and leaving, they're welcome to do that. They don't have to stay the whole time. But I would also encourage students to look at those pick your path and the student org welcome events, because those generally are going to be a much smaller scale and might be something that students who feel overwhelmed in large crowds, might prefer some of those ones throughout the day. So that could be any attendance anywhere from 10 to 100 or 150 compared to like the full thousands of the larger scale events. We also are going to be updating our sensory and accessibility guide for this year. So that will be coming to Guidebook very soon in the next couple of weeks. And that'll detail what students can expect at each of those events. So like which ones will have loud noises and which ones will have large crowds. And the Disability Resource Center is also working on some new, I'm blanking on the word, like a decompressing
Sensory room.
Sensory room. There we go. That was not going to come to my mind, but a quiet space for students to go during K Week as well. So even though we hype up the large events, because that is what a lot of people get excited about, there are a lot of smaller events too that you can click through on the app.
Yeah.
And then you want to talk about K teams a little bit?
Well, we talked about K teams a little earlier that, like Nancy said, they're led by our K crew leaders. So these are current students who have gone through K Week, who are really passionate about UK, and who also are prepped to have conversations with students who feel a little hesitant about participating in K Week. I'd also recommend that just to remember that everybody that is participating in K Week probably is feeling similarly about it's the week before classes. This is a really big university. Gosh, there are a lot of people at UK, but that it's also kind of exciting and you can feel like that nervousness and also the excitement at the same time. Our K teams really are there to start getting students to start talking to each other, whether that's through fun icebreakers and energizers, or even just chatting with them to see what they're interested in as they're walking to events. They will have people that they can go to events with. And then once you get to an event, it's kind of up to you how you want to engage with it, like Mary said. Campus Ruckus is probably one of my favorite events because it's set up to kind of take some of that awkwardness out because all the student organizations that are tabling there have an activity to do with students that engage with their table. So it could be, like spinning a wheel and answering a trivia question or doing some kind of trivia, or I feel like I've seen like the fish ponds with the like ducks or something that people have pulled out before. So that is also a really good event to go to if you're a little hesitant on how to start conversations. That kind of activity is already built into it.
Yeah, and last thing I'll add on to that is on the Instagram, the UK_K Week Instagram, we'll be posting know before you goes for those large events too. So those students can get a little bit more detailed information the day of for each of those, including like what do we recommend you wear, especially if it's hot and outside. Where is like what kind of like food and water is going to be available at those. So we try to remove as much ambiguity as possible. And if there are any specific questions or concerns, please do reach out to that K-Week email, and we'd be happy to provide as much information to help remove some of that ambiguity and make students feel really comfortable.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And then do you have anything specifically to maybe our off-campus students? Obviously, students in our residence halls are surrounded by peers going through the same experience. Our off-campus students are in a variety of different situations. Some of them may be in apartments where they're also living close to peers. Some may be living at home. Some may be commuting from further away. I know you mentioned that off-campus students can opt into the K-Team experience, but what other advice do you have for our off-campus population?
Yeah, I think my biggest reminder is especially with those departments and the Pick Your Path and the student org welcome events, like even if you're not living on campus, all of those resources and all of those student organizations still are for you too. So highly recommend coming in to check those out because you don't have to live on campus to engage with those departments and those student organizations. Justice, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would highly recommend to opt into K-Teams if you are interested in that resource, because that is a great way to get plugged in with other students who are coming into the university for the first time. You'll be mixed with other potentially commuter students and also residential students. It's just like a great initial intro to start meeting people that maybe you wouldn't have met like in your classes and stuff. So, and we hear a lot from our current K crew leaders that they continue to talk to their K teams throughout the year. So it's another good resource to have that K team leader just to ask all the questions that come up about what it does it mean to be a student at UK.
Yeah, I also think it's so important for our off-campus students to spend time in between events on campus instead of thinking they're going to, go back and then come back to campus. I think sometimes once you get back to your apartment and you sit down on your couch, you're like, oh, maybe I'm just going to stay here. It's very comfortable. So I hope they will, use some of the smaller events in between some of the big signature events, and I hope they'll, eat in the dining facilities on campus and hang out in some of the social areas rather than coming and going. I think families can encourage folks to do that.
Yeah, and I'll add real quick too that if you download that UK Guides app, we've built out a commuter resources tab this year that centralizes some information specifically for commuter students, and we'll be continuing to update that with more details as we approach where they can opt into K teams as well. But it's got information about parking during that week as well as some other stuff and like good spaces to hang out when they have downtime.
That sounds like a really helpful resource. Tracy, wants to get back to your mention of the Safe Zone app and what it's used for. And Kate can put that link in the chat because that is a new safety app on campus. We're transitioning away from one that we've previously used.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the Safe Zone app, it's how UK alerts can be distributed to students, faculty, and staff. So if there are any updates that impact students in real time, that app is important to have. And you can also get a virtual escort from UKPD through the app, I believe, and easily contact UKPD in case there is an emergency or a non-emergency too. I have not fully explored the app yet, but that link that Kate just sent out has a lot more information about it. But it is new this summer and is rolling out, so wanted to make sure that we mentioned it.
All right. Let's see. We don't have any open questions right now. So folks, if you've got a final question or two, we'll keep chatting for another minute so you can get those in. I can't remember. Did each of you share your favorite K-Week events? And then maybe I would love to hear another kind of other highlight event of the year that folks should tell their students to look for.
Mm.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. I think my favorite K-Week event is Catapalooza, and I might be a little bit biased on this one, admittedly, because as I mentioned earlier, I advise WRFL, and we always bring in a couple of local bands to play at Catapalooza and start introducing students to the local music scene that we have around here, which is something I'm really passionate about. So I like Catapalooza for that reason, as well as many more. Um, in terms of some other stuff to get excited about, from my perspective, I do really think that we have a great lineup for our film series. And so that's really cool that students can see events for free on the big screen here in Worsham. And then also I would pitch Slimestone, which is part of Labor's Day. Again, I'm biased because WRFL does that, but it's a cool little scavenger hunt style event where we introduce students to the local businesses that exist on South Limestone, and have a lot of live music for that as well.
Mm. Yeah, I really like that K-Week, all of our signature events kind of build in, and I don't think intensity is the right word, maybe like energy. Like Wildcat Welcome is very much like a welcome. Like you go, you're able to walk through, you get your t-shirt, here's some music, and then it kind of like ramps up a little bit more with Campus Ruckus. You've got 180 student orgs, and then it like really ramps up for Big Blue U. You're in the stadium, and then you start to like then kind of wind down with Catapalooza resources, and then you really get the chill out with Chill and Grill. But I think my favorite is Campus Ruckus, especially seeing it now outside on the library lawn. It looks so cool seeing all of the tables in one spot. And in addition to the student orgs, they've got inflatables and different snacks and drinks. And it's really fun to walk around and like feel the energy during Campus Ruckus. And I think what an event I'm looking forward to is our Fall Involvement Fair, which will be in September. So we mentioned that a lot of student organizations will be at Campus Ruckus, but we also offer the Fall Involvement Fair as another opportunity to introduce students to different organizations that are on campus. So I'd highly recommend checking that out, because likely there will be different organizations at the Fall Involvement Fair since we have so many.
Yeah, and we have built out a tab on Guidebook as well called The Fun Continues. So there's some information about some of the first athletic games on there. So not just football. Football is obviously very big and wonderful, but there's some men's soccer games, some women's soccer games, and volleyball that all happen pretty soon after K-Week, as well as homecoming and family weekend. We've got information about those in the UK Guides app as well, and that's another really fun week of programming on campus.
Well, and you all may be able to speak to ways that I'm forgetting just off the top of my head, but I think there's so many ways for students to learn about what's going on. And I think sometimes they don't always pay attention to their surroundings. So sometimes I think they might call home and be like, well, there's not much going on. I'm like, you've got to look at all the yard signs. You've got to check BB Involved. You've got to follow these groups on Instagram. And I know when I see all of the fun things going on campus, I try to share them to the parents and families' Instagram so that families at home can say, hey, this event totally sounds like you. Like they're showing a movie you've always wanted to see. They're playing bingo. There are prizes. There's free food. We want families to encourage students to attend these events. Students, once the fall semester starts, will be getting a weekly email that highlights a lot of the activities going on that week. So we try to make sure that students always know what's going on. Are there any ways that I have forgotten to mention?
Thinking signage wise, there's a ton of digital signage across campus. So the physical yard signs definitely important to look out for. But even here in the student center, I mean, you can stand in front of one of our digital signs and just see event after event pop up, and you can take a picture of it. Or, I mean, we always recommend BB Involved, because that is going to be the best place to look, not only for student organizations that are doing events, but also a lot of our departments and colleges will post on BB Involved about different events that they're doing. So it could be like the undergraduate research fair, or our involvement fair, or SAB doing their big bingo that they do in the ballroom, or WRFL Slimestone. So lots of different ways to stay connected and get that information.
Yeah, and K-Week really is just the start of a whole school year of so many activities. So I've got a question asking about other things that students do during K-Week. So do students tend to find their classes during K-Week and buy books, etc.? So can you speak to kind of those other activities outside of the maybe scheduled events?
Yeah, absolutely. So, especially from where students get to make their own schedule, they can account for time to do all those things before classes. The bookstore is conveniently right here in the student center too, where a lot of those events and other things are. So, good central place to check out if students are wanting to get ahead of on buying some books. And I'm sure professors post their syllabi ahead of time on Canvas, so they can start looking at those. And yeah, great time to navigate campus. We've got the campus map linked on Guidebook too. So if students want to take themselves on a self-guided tour, that's a really cool option to do during K week and just like taking some time to learn campus themselves. Also, I think those college meetings will start to introduce a lot more of that, like where are these classes going to be element, and more information about classes specifically. You have anything to add?
No, that's perfect.
Yeah, I know you can always see once move-in has started, there's individual students, small groups of students, and they're kind of poking in a lot of different buildings. And you can tell that they're trying to figure out where their classes are, how long it's going to take them to get from A to B. So yeah, using that downtime before classes start, it's smart to kind of further get the lay of the land. So then Andrea's got a question about kind of post K week. So with a full-time academic schedule, time's a factor. I'm wondering, how often do most organizations meet? I understand each one's unique, but are there common trends weekly or monthly, for instance?
Yeah, you're right. All of them are pretty unique. And I think across the board, I've seen both weekly to monthly. Even some organizations meet like twice a semester. It really kind of depends on what the organization does, and what they use their meetings for. But you can also find that information on BB Involved. If you look for an organization, I think pretty much all of our organizations will say when they host their meetings and the frequency of those. So you can also reach out to organizations through BB Involved to ask them specifically what the time commitment may be if you're interested in getting to know more about their org.
Yeah, and I think I'll just add to you that these organizations, depending on which one, sometimes will have different levels of involvement too. So, students don't necessarily have to go all in on being like the presidents of organizations, but there are different like not steps, membership levels. There we go. Yeah, sorry, Monday brain. Different membership levels for some of these organizations, especially speaking for our larger ones within our office. So you can kind of tailor a time commitment based on that with some of them as well.
Yeah, and I think there's just an exploration component to the first fall semester for our incoming students. I think you sign up for a lot of the GroupMe's and the BB Involved pages for a bunch of different organizations. You start figuring out what works for you, and I think there's some trial and error to it. And I don't know if students are always prepared for the trial and error element. I think they kind of hope everything will work out perfectly right off the bat. And again, we would love to think it would be that easy, but sometimes you got to figure out, what's going to work for your schedule, what kind of balance looks like. But I think the balance really is the key. At least in my view, we don't want them to be all in on academics and not have a social outlet. But on the flip side, we don't want them to be so involved with their groups that they're neglecting their studies too. So finding the right balance for each student is one of their, I guess, challenges for the upcoming fall semester.
And a lot of them do have academic ties too. So if students do have a packed schedule and they want to be involved, but they want it to be a little bit more directly connected to their career interest, there is a tag on BB Involved to sort through those academic orgs, or thinking about different skills that they can pick up in some of those organizations too, and how those would translate to career readiness for them or whatever the next step is. So there's a way to kind of make those intermingle, or if students want something completely separate, they can find that also.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Well, we don't have any open questions right now, so we'll go ahead and wrap things up. But thanks to Kate for being behind the scenes and putting all those links and good information in the chat so folks can see the K-week schedule and see some of the other information that you all shared. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be taking the recording and putting it in the Cat Chat family community for folks to look at afterwards, and we'll have the slides along with that. I do hope folks can join us for Wednesday's Cat Chat Live. Again, the topic is Financing UK and Financing Life, and then we'll be wrapping up our series next week as we get closer to K-week and the start of the fall semester. But thank you so much for sharing all of this good information, and good luck as you all put the finishing touches on K-week and Labor Day and all of the other events and student groups that you're supporting. Good luck with it all. And again, thanks for being with us. Everyone have a great rest of your day and go Cats. Thanks, y'all.